What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here with a midday episode of the Louie T Network podcast. Hope that this podcast reaches you at a time when you're feeling great. Weather's getting a little funky, man. It was just 62 degrees the other day, then it was 40 degrees yesterday, and now it's damn near 60 again today. And on Saturday, it's going to be 39 degrees. What the hell is going on? If you think global warming doesn't exist, bless your heart. Anyway, we got some things to attend to. NBA trade deadline is vastly approaching. Jimmy Butler has been shipped to the Golden State Warriors. We will talk about it. Man, there have been a lot of lopsided trades in the NBA. I really don't know what the hell is going on, but we're going to talk about it. How does the Lakers end up with Mark Williams? Make it make sense. And then you see what they gave up, and you see what the Raptors gave up to get Brandon Ingram, and you're like, what are we doing here, folks? We'll talk about all of those things. Joe Burrow, get out of the goddamn way. Get out of the way, Joe. This doesn't concern you, even though it does. Myles Garrett over here making his rounds. Lots to get to today. And then some here on the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 481st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Hope this Thursday afternoon is treating you beautifully. Lots to get to today. We're vastly approaching the trade deadline in the NBA. As I said, that's going to be at 4 o'clock today. We're vastly approaching the Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. That will be on Sunday. So you'll get my predictions for that game, a preview prediction tomorrow on the podcast. But today we're going to talk about a few items, but a lot of basketball. And you know, we're getting to that point of the NBA season now where teams are positioning themselves for the future. Teams are positioning themselves for the rest of this season to chase a chip. And so we'll continue to knock down these, different trades. And we knew this was going to be a crazy trade deadline because of the Luka trade that kind of sent a bombshell that had a ripple effect around the association. And teams felt that. And I think you were going to see a rash of moves that we have. And we're not done yet. I think you're going to still see a couple more trades that take place. But when it's all said and done, let's talk about what has transpired in the NBA. And let's do that. So with that said, let's get to the gym drop-in session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T88. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So these NBA trades have been crazy, right? And they're coming in as we would expect as we get closer and closer to the deadline. We are now roughly, 3 hours or so, give or take 10 minutes away from the trade deadline reaching its conclusion. And I don't think we're done yet, obviously. So we'll just go through some of these deals that have taken place and talk about what's going down. So I want to start by saying this before we get into some more deals that have taken place. These are some of the most lopsided trades I can recall. Me and my buddy were just talking on the phone maybe an hour ago about this. Last night, I got off the Super Friends stream. I opened up my phone and I saw that Brandon Ingram was traded. Jimmy Butler had already been traded. I'd already seen the details. And then, one of the pieces of the trade had kind of fallen through. So they were trying to scramble to figure out how they were going to make the rest of the deal work. But we knew the parameters were pretty much set for him to be shipped off to Golden State. But I hadn't seen the Brandon Ingram deal. So I opened up my phone and Brandon Ingram going to the Toronto Raptors, and I'm like, well, what they give up? Toronto's got a few interesting young pieces. And so matter of fact, my Grizzlies played the Toronto Raptors last night. So I was interested to see, what they had given up. And so let me give you this trade. See if I can pull it up. I cannot find it. I just had it too. All right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here and let's see. Here we go. All right. So I saw that they here it is right here. This was the trade last night where I was telling my buddy. That this trade, the Toronto Raptors trading for Brandon Ingram, to me was the equivalent of you getting a contraption or something that you purchased and expecting more to be in the box. So you take a couple of things out and you're like, I know it came with more than this. And you look inside the box, you don't see anything, and you turn it upside down and you shake it like something's going to fall out because you feel like there's more, but there isn't. That's kind of how I felt about this trade. It's like I was looking at my phone and I pulled down the notification and I'm like, okay, where's the rest of the trade? Right? So New Orleans gives up Brandon Ingram. The Raptors give up Bruce Brown Jr., Kelly Olynyk, Indiana's 2026 first round pick, top 4 protected through 2027, and a 2031 second round pick. And I'm like, okay, where's the rest of the trade? This is all you got for Brandon Ingram? Okay. Cool. All right. That's all that you were able to get for Brandon. I felt like they've been holding on to Brandon Ingram and dangling him in trade rumors for 2 years now, and that's what you got for him? Okay, cool. Let's talk about the Jimmy Butler trade. So this was the biggest one, and my buddy's I told y'all I felt like the Spurs stole De'Aaron Fox, right? Like that was a lopsided trade to me. Like I don't know what the Kings are doing. Like, okay, you got, and again, he told you he wasn't signing an extension. You had to do something. So to get Levine out of it, okay, all right, that's cool. You got something, right? You got someone that wants to be there. He's played with DeMar DeRozan before, so there's a chemistry there. Cool. Okay. From the Bulls' perspective, makes no sense, right? I got nothing. Like this whole time you've been waiting to trade De'Aaron Fox, and all you do is essentially get your first round pick back this year. So yeah, you got a shot. And this is the thing that kills me in the NBA is the NBA isn't like football, which I struggle with this because you're not guaranteed anything in the NBA. You're not guaranteed anything. So you trading for your first round pick back if you're Chicago, all that does is give you a chance in the lottery to potentially get the number 1 or the number 2 or the number 3 pick. But really, you're after the number 1 pick. You're after Cooper Flag. That's what that gives you the ability to do. You might still end up with the 7th pick in the draft, though. All that for the 7th pick in the draft. Good job, right? The NBA is crazy because you'll give up on a young player in an instant, and I get it. If you drafted a guy and you thought he was one thing and he turns out to be something else, or you drafted a guy, he's a malcontent or he's undisciplined and you've seen him now on an everyday basis, cool. But they'll give up on a player a year in, like, okay, he's not what I thought he was. And that's it. I mean, it's wild in the NBA. Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. But we've had that conversation before. So there's a lot of moving parts here. A lot of moving parts. 4 different teams are a part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different teams are a part of this trade. Pistons received Josh Richardson and Lindy Waters III. Miami Heat received Kyle Anderson, Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, Golden State's 2025 first-round pick, top 10 protected through 2027. Raptors received PJ Tucker, 2026 second-round pick from the Lakers, and Miami and cash. And they're going to just dump PJ Tucker when it's all said and done. Utah receives Dennis Schroeder, 2031 second round pick, less favorable of the Miami and Indiana picks via Miami. And of course, the Golden State Warriors receive Jimmy Butler, and he's going to sign a 2-year, $111 million extension. So a lot of moving parts within that trade. This one, look, you just needed other teams to be in here to facilitate this trade. This was all about Miami getting off of Jimmy Butler and getting Andrew Wiggins. Those were the 2 centerpieces of this trade. I think both teams got what they needed to get out of the trade, essentially. In the case of Miami, Butler wasn't happy. You were sick and tired of his antics. You needed to get something for him. You get Andrew Wiggins, and he'll keep you afloat. And he'll play ball, and he'll be a part of the Heat culture. So that makes a ton of sense. Kyle Anderson is another guy that's a glue guy that'll come in and be able to help do a lot of things. He's a two-way player, but more so a defensive guy. So he'll fit into that Heat culture as well. And then the Warriors, you're going to try and make something happen. You don't want to waste the tail end of Steph's career. You got to give him another guy, because without Clay, they weren't going to give away Kuminga. Like, a lot of people wanted Kuminga. They realized that he's the only real young talent that they have. A lot of people thought Brandon Podziemski was going to be the next big thing in Golden State, and it just hasn't materialized. And so they gave up the commodity that they knew was a diminishing one in Andrew Wiggins. Kuminga is the one with the arrow pointing up. They weren't going to give him away, and they see him as a part of the future. So they held on to him, moved on from Wiggins, got Butler, who helps you win now with the nucleus that you've assembled. And now they're going to try and chase a chip. They got to get back into the playoff race first. Got to try to figure out how these pieces all fit together. And they're going to have to do it quickly, because the Western Conference is a beast. And they're on the struggle bus right now. So time's a wasting. So we'll see what happens with that. Going on to another trade that I thought was just ridiculous. Mark Williams to the Lakers. This, I'm going to say this. It almost feels like the fix is in to make sure that the Lakers are good. I'm not a conspiracy theory, guys. I don't believe that's the case, but damn it, some of these trades, I told you, some of these trades the Lakers have been involved in have been wild. Where you go, really? That's all you gave up and you got that player? Huh. I wonder how that happened now. I'm still baffled as to how all the Lakers had to do was give up a first-round pick with AD to get Luka Doncic. Like, that's all it took to get Luka Doncic? Really? And Max Christie. Okay, and Max Christie. Woo. Like, whoa, bro. It's Luka effing Doncic. You're right. So here's the trade. Charlotte receives Dalton Connect, so a first-round pick from this year. Cam Reddish, 2030 first-round pick, swap rights. 2031 first-round pick, unprotected. That's all you had to give up to get Mark Williams. A pick swap and an unprotected 2031 first round. Luka Doncic will still be in LA in 2031. Okay. This would be different if this was the Jimmy Butler trade, where you got a bunch of old, aging superstars that by the time 2031 rolls around, they'll be long gone. Luka Doncic is going to be in LA in 2031. They're not going to be sorry in 2021, just so we're clear. As long as Luka isn't 450 pounds, the Lakers will still be good in 2031. If Luka's healthy and still Luka. So, again, what are we doing here again? This is insane. And it's wild too, because on the face of this, I'm like, you're giving up all this for just one big, but it's a good big. If he's healthy, and I think this is the disconnect. Like, Mark Williams is really good when he's healthy, and that's the thing. Not always going to be healthy. But when Mark Williams is healthy, he's a difference maker. He can be a real difference maker. Dalton Connect, I didn't think they would give him up this soon, but I knew that there was a little bit of a disconnect between he and JJ Redick. So I'm not shocked by that. Cam Reddish, at this point now, I think he's a role player, a guy you come off the bench, can give you some instant offense on some nights, but he's not consistent with it. And then the picks don't really move me. The pick swap in the 2031 unprotected, those don't move me. They don't move me. They don't move me. Milwaukee traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. I still don't really know how I feel about this trade. They essentially have decided Chris Middleton is old and can't contribute at the level they need him to. They're just essentially trying shit now. And in the NBA, that's what you got to do. It's as crazy as that sounds. You got to keep trying shit till you until you find something that works. The Bucks are they're grasping at straws at this point. You know you got Giannis, you know you got Dame Lillard, and now you're just trying to fit pieces around them with the limited resources that they have at their disposal. There's not much they can do. This was one of the few things that they could do, right? This was one of the few things they could try. Kuzma, to me, is not an upgrade over Chris Middleton, but he's younger. and it's different. We don't know how it's going to work. We don't know what it's going to look like. But what they've obviously determined in Milwaukee is that wasn't going to work. And in the NBA, once you realize something isn't going to work, you got to try something else, or else you're essentially insane, right? That's the definition of insanity, is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you know something's not working, let's try something different. My problem with the NBA is they're too willing to try something different too fast. Like, okay, this isn't going to work. Let's try something. Like, well, damn, you didn't even give it a chance. Like, hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Let's just see if this is going to work. They're like, no. We don't have time for this shit. We gave him 32 games. It didn't work. Let's move on. Like, goddamn. We moving on that fast? The Luka trade was lopsided, if you ask me. This Charlotte Hornets trade is a bit lopsided, if you ask me. The De'Aaron Fox trade was, to me, one-sided for the Spurs, if you ask me. The Brandon Ingram to Toronto deal was lopsided for Toronto. I mean, but I told him, this is what I told my buddy. This is what I told my buddy. If you look at all the teams that are getting fleeced, you understand why they are where they are. Think about the teams I just mentioned, right? Charlotte. They're Charlotte for a reason, right? Pelicans. They're the Pellies for a reason, right? Can't get out of their own way. Chicago. They ain't been right since the 90s. The last time they had hope was when D Rose first came into the league and was league MVP. That's the last time they had real hope in Chicago. They ain't been right since that whole D Rose thing with the injuries went downhill. In the NBA, they're the haves and the have-nots. They're the teams that do the fleecing and the teams that get fleeced. And you got to be careful. You got to be careful in the NBA. Because it's a very fine line between the two. It's already a player-driven league as is. And if you're not careful, excuse me, you'll get got. A lot of relationships, are the flavor of the day in the NBA. A lot of shit goes down because of relationships. You see that quite often. I mean, I think that was a large part in why AD was traded to the Mavs. He had a relationship with Nico Harrison, the Mavs GM. So a lot of things go down in the NBA because of relationships, because of who represents you, your agency, things of that nature. So Jonas Valanciunas is the king. I'm trying to figure out what Sacramento's trying to do. I just feel like they're just throwing darts at the board at this point. I don't hate the trade for them, by the way. They got Jonas Valanciunas. They give up City Cisco and 2 future second-round picks. You know what's crazy? Okay, hold on. Suns sending Yusuf Nurkic and a 2026 first-round pick to the Hornets for Cody Martin, Vasily Milicic, and 2026 second-round pick. Me and my buddy were just talking about him getting up off Yusuf Nurkic. And we said that to get off of Nurk, you was going to have to give up some shit. You're going to have to attach a pick to Nurk to get rid of him. And that's what they did. They had to give up a first-round pick to get rid of him. And I don't think we're done yet. But if that's the one move that they're making, then he's not going to be happy today. Pelicans give up Daniel Tice and a second round 2031 pick for cash considerations. Great. Just what I need. The Thunder acquiring another big. Awesome. So we just had another deal come down, but like I said, it was just getting Nurk out of there. His son's tenure took a steep, sharp turn into the ground. So they had to get him out of there before it got any worse. Let's transition to social media maneuvers. Excuse me. I'm a midday marauder, but before we get to any of that, we got to talk about some passings here. So Bears owner Virginia Hallis McCaskey passes away at the age of 102. Damn, she lived a hell of a life. Seen a lot, did a lot. They would always put the camera on her at the Bears games. And I was like, damn, she's still holding on. So she finally passed away. Condolences to her family. She lived a hell of a life, though. She exceeded the century mark. We lost Irv Gotti yesterday. That one kind of came out of nowhere. I was talking to my homeboy, though, and he was like, Irv was living dangerously, though. He was one of those diabetes dudes who the doctors told him, hey, you got to slow down, bro. You got to make some life changes. And he just wasn't willing to give up food. And he was willing to roll the dice. And unfortunately, he had a stroke, a fatal stroke. And diabetes ain't nothing to play with, man. It's not a game. It is not a game. And unfortunately, at the young age of 54, we lost Irv Gotti. And 50 just can't help himself, boy. He don't know how to take the high road. I don't even think he knows what a high road is. He yesterday, put out a message saying he was smoking on a Irv Gotti pack. I said, Lord have mercy. God help us all. One thing about 50, he's going to remain petty to the day he is no longer on this earth. That is for sure. So we lost a titan in the game, man. That's unfortunate. But y'all take care of yourselves. I always tell y'all gotta make sure y'all taking care of yourselves out there, man. Like, health is important. Getting after the bag and getting to the bag is awesome. But what difference does it make if you're not gonna be here to share it with somebody? If you're not gonna be here to see the fruits of your labor, right? Take care of yourself. If you know somebody in your life that you care about who's not taking care of themselves, do all you can to try to get them to take care of themselves. Because you could be here today, gone tomorrow, man. It's not a game. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share something with y'all. I myself had a brief health scare, probably like 3 months ago, maybe, where this was, what month are we on? 2? So this was about 5-6 months ago, where my arm and my legs were tingling. And I'm like, one thing I do is I listen to my body. When something's not right, I'm going to go to the doctor. So, because as you guys know, I'm a vegan. I'm very conscious about what I put in my body. But sometimes you can fall into the trap, and this is what happened to me. When I first became a vegan, I was very strict. I was very particular about what I ate. And, as you get more and more comfortable, you start to condition yourself and brainwash yourself. Oh, I'm vegan, so I can eat whatever the hell I want. Because I'm eating vegan, I'm fine, right? And you lose sight of, well, you still got to eat the right way. Just because you're not eating meat and you're not eating dairy-based products and things that are derived from animals doesn't mean you're fine. You still have to eat the right way. And and then I started taking inventory because, WebMD is a very dangerous, very dangerous tool, right? Because WebMD will make you think you've got um, a a massive tumor on your brain, right? It'll have you thinking you have stage 3 cancer. WebMD is very dangerous. You have to stay off of that. But I did some self-diagnosing, and I'd come up with, bro, your glucose is probably through the roof right now. This is why you're feeling like this. I didn't have a diagnosis, but I went to the doctor, and they did, in fact, run tests, and sure enough, glucose was through the roof. And I started taking inventory of all the shit that I was eating. And I was like, bro, you were tripping. Soon as I changed my diet, it went away. And so listen to your body and be willing to make the necessary changes that have to be made for you to have a healthy life. And not just a healthy life, a healthy quality of life, right? So please take care of yourself, because being vegan, and let me give you a little bit of game. So I'm not like a typical vegan. I don't eat a lot of the stuff that, because a lot of the stuff that you have, it's no different than a normal person eating. A lot of the stuff is processed. I'm not a big processed guy. I eat a lot of, vegetables. I eat a lot of, leafy greens. I eat a lot of nuts, cashews and almonds and things of that nature. I eat a lot of fruit. I stay eating berries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. Like, that's my diet. Like, I eat a lot of vegetables, eggplant, and potatoes, and squash. Um, these are the things that I consume. You can do a lot with those things too. Every now and again, I'll dibble and dabble in, some indulgence, just like anybody else does, right? Lasagna, spaghetti, those types of things. But for the most part, that's my diet, right? I had gotten away from that, though. I was drinking a lot of juice. I was eating this thing because I'm a big cereal guy. Like, one of my vices was cereal. So I was eating granola as cereal every day. It was literally a bag of sugar that I was eating. But I was like, well, I'm not eating anything else, so I should be fine. And when I started taking inventory of that, I realized I'm tripping. I'm tripping, bro. You eating this, you eating that, you eating that, you eating that, and you doing this 4 or 5 times. You eating a bunch of rice. And a lot of things. Another thing for vegans, and you have to make sure you're not eating a bunch of carbs. You're not eating a bunch of rice, because the easiest thing, and this is another trap that I had fallen into, that one of the easiest things to make convenient as a vegan is rice, because you can take rice and you can make, and the thing, Asians eat rice a lot. But you know what Asians also do? They wash their rice 3, 4, 5 times and wash all of that starch, all of that sugar off of their rice, and then they cook it and then they eat it. Americans do not do that. So if you go to Chipotle, or you go to Kava, or you go to Qdoba, they're not washing their rice 4, 5 times to get all of that starch off. They're just cooking it, and you're eating all of that rice, and you're eating all of that sugar, because that's what rice is, a bunch of sugar. And I was doing that. I fell into that trap because it's convenient. Once again, Got to know what you're putting in your body, right? So just be cognizant of that. I said all of that to tell you this. Know what you're putting in your body. Understand that your body is going to speak to you. If something's wrong, like I don't get headaches. So if I get a headache, something's wrong. Headaches are not normal, people. Some of you normalize headaches. Oh, I'll just take some aspirin. No, you're not supposed to get headaches. Something is wrong. Your body is telling you that something's wrong. Headaches are not normal. Oh, I just get headaches. No, you don't just get headaches. Something's wrong. Something's off. Anyway, I digress. And I seen quinoa. Yeah, I eat quinoa. I eat quinoa, but you don't want to overindulge in things either. Like quinoa is still a starch. It's not as starchy, right, as rice, but it's still something that you don't want to overindulge in. But I got plenty of quinoa in the pantry right now. And usually when I eat something rice based, it's quinoa instead of rice. But you don't want to eat a lot of that either. You know, you want to make sure you do everything. And you've heard this saying, everything's better in moderation. Very true. Very true. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to some social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know what it is. Yeah, Chase. You wash that rice until the water is clean and clear. You shouldn't see any film in that water if it's done correctly. Asians wash that thing 4 or 5 times. If it takes 6, 7 times, they're gonna wash that rice until that shit is clear. That water is clear. Then they cook it. We don't do that here in America, right? So I learned that though. Like if you're gonna eat rice, that's what you got to do. You know, this is little tricks to the trade. You know what I'm saying? Little things you pick up along the way when you are conscious about what you put in your body. You know what I mean? Anyway, I digress. So we got some business to attend to. Let's start with Myles Garrett, man. Have you seen? First of all, how about our guy Jaden Daniels making the rounds on Radio Row? He was everywhere yesterday. I swear. I think I saw him on at least 6 different YouTube videos. You know, NBC, Channel 9. I'm just making up a channel. I don't know. But he was with Diana Rossini. I saw an ESPN one. That's the one I watched the wrong one. That was a horrible interview. I was like, oh my God, she did a terrible job. She asked some of the stupidest questions. You played against the Eagles 3 times this year. What made the Eagles so good? Who gives a shit? If the people that are watching this video don't give a damn about why the Philadelphia Eagles are good, why are you asking him that question? Right? She asked a bunch of stupid questions. I'm like, really? That's the best you got? I saw him do one with Rich Eisen. I saw him do another one. I was like, God damn, he's everywhere. But that's to be expected. You know, when players of his caliber are on Radio Row for the Super Bowl, you're gonna be pulled in 80 different directions. But you know who else was there? Myles Garrett. And he was pulled in 80 different directions. And people were asking him about his trade demand and trade request rather. And of course, he made it known that he would like to go to a team that has a chance to win the Super Bowl. Well, obviously the 2 teams playing in the Super Bowl have a chance to win the Super Bowl. So, you know, those are names that, we're boundied about. They're not trading him to the Chiefs. So, of course, the Eagles came up, and we all know the Eagles are very, very aggressive when these types of opportunities come up. And he did not shy away from talking about teams in particular. Now, again, he is not really at liberty to discuss other opportunities, he is under contract by the Cleveland Browns. Anything else would be considered tampering. So he did keep it somewhat, let's say he kept it very vague. He did not like specialize certain, opportunities. But when he was, asked about Philadelphia, obviously that's a really good team. I, would have no issues going there, right? And he pretty much said, "Yeah, I'll go to Philadelphia. Who wouldn't?" He was asked specifically about Washington, and he said, "Look, he did talk very candidly about Washington. He said, um, they need a pass rusher, and I can definitely do that. And I think I'm one of the best defensive players in the league. And they could definitely use some help on the defensive side of football. They could definitely use a pass rusher. I think I could fit all of that for them." And so he started cheesing too when he talked, but he was cheesing about all the teams because he just wants out of Cleveland, man. I only bring this up to say I think he's going to make this shit tough on Cleveland. Now, again, they don't have to do anything, and I still don't think they're going to trade him. But I think when you come out the way that he did, this man had a formal trade request. Like, he put out an entire post. It looked like a flyer. And one of the things he said in that trade request was a shot at the GM, who said when his career is done, he'll have a direct ticket from Cleveland to Canton. And he made it a point of emphasis to say in that trade request, my goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It was to go to the Super Bowl. So I think he has every intention of making this shit difficult on the Browns if they don't want to trade him. Now, again, how difficult is he willing to make this? That's the real question. How difficult is he willing to make this? He's not showing up for any of the offseason stuff. That's not when the real, the real face-off. That's not when the real game of chicken begins. All right. The real game of chicken begins when training camp hits and everybody's reporting. That's when the game of chicken begins, because that's when they can start finding you. They could find you for the OTAs, the mandatory OTA. He doesn't give a shit about that. That's chump change for him. The training camp is when it starts to add up. That's when you start saying, I'm not coming. We saw it with Hassan Reddick last year. The Jets thought he was playing, but he wasn't. He was dead ass. He wanted his contract. He wanted his money. Will Myles Garrett be willing to do the same? Will he be willing to do the same? Will the Browns potentially offering him a new contract entice him to come back if that's something that they're able to do? I don't know, but he sounds like a guy who is hell bent on getting out of Cleveland. So we'll see what ultimately happens there. That has the chance to turn into a mean game of chicken. See who's going to flinch or swerve first. Again, the Browns, they have all the leverage here. The only bit of leverage that Myles Garrett has is he can tell any prospective team that they would be trying to trade him to, I'm not going to sign an extension with you. Other than that, they don't have to trade him. They can, kind of determine where they trade him if they want to trade him. He doesn't have any say-so in that. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, let me say this. If you're out there, you want your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. Time permits, we will get to your comment and react to what it was you had to say. Super chats, however, are the best way to So we got another trade. Ooh, juicy. Juicy. All right. Cleveland's going for it, man. They are going for it. So the newest trade is, I should have just kept it up because this joint is loading super slow. The Cleveland Cavaliers just traded for DeAndre Hunter. It's a good piece right there. My guess is he'll be coming off their bench. If I can get it to pull up. All right. Here we go. I'm going to just go here because they tripping. All right. Atlanta Hawks sending DeAndre Hunter to Cleveland for Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, and 3 second-round picks and 2 swaps. So the meat and potatoes of this trade, DeAndre Hunter to Cleveland, and they're going to lose Karis LeVert, who was instant offense off the bench. But what that says to me is they feel good about their guards. They wanted a wing, and they just got themselves a dynamic two-way wing. When he's right, when he's locked in and the 3 ball is falling, DeAndre Hunter is a tremendous wing defender who can stretch the floor, can create his own shot, does a lot of the dirty work as well. He could be a big 3-and-D guy for them. If that works out, that's a big move, right? That's a big move. Cleveland's going for it. They smell an opportunity. And because Boston just beat them again, I want to say 2-3 nights ago, they knew as is the roster wasn't good enough. This is a big move. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. This was a move basically saying we aren't good enough as constructed to beat Boston. Now they're hoping, and they got time to, this is the beauty of the trade deadline. You still got about roughly 30 games. Let's see. My Grizzlies are what, 35-16? So 45, 51. So yeah, the All-Star break is right around the corner. You got roughly 30 games to figure out if this is going to work or not, right? If we can, and not necessarily if it's going to work, but can we get it to work fast enough to win us the championship this year, right? We've seen trades in season, not work that first year, or just trades overall not work that first year. Remember Rudy Gobert in Minnesota, that first year was disastrous with him and Cat. Then the next year, they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. We thought that was a terrible trade and it wasn't going to work, and then they stuck with it. Then they blew it up, and I didn't understand trading for Julius Randle. Like that you got worse doing that. But again, that's not my business, right? But that was, to me, I mean, I get it that if Cat wasn't necessarily your cup of tea, cool, but Julius Randle ain't better than Cat. I could have told you that. And you want to know why Minnesota went from one of the best in the West last year to now a fringe playoff team this year? Look no further than that trade. But we said the same thing about Kyrie and Luka. When that pairing first happened, it didn't look good initially. Next thing you know, they're in the NBA Finals, right? They had to make some more moves, though, right? They had to solidify that front court. But once they did, look out. So we'll see what this trade does. That's a big move for Cleveland, because as constructed, they weren't good enough to beat the Boston Celtics, and they knew it. They had to do something, and that's a hell of a trade. Word out on the street is they're just there are still teams calling about KD. I just don't see him going anywhere at this point. I don't see him going anywhere at this point. Another trade with the Bucks and Spurs. They're sending Patrick Baldwin Jr. to San Antonio for cash and cash to San Antonio, so nothing major there. But that's a big one. That's the biggest trade of the day so far. Is Atlanta sending DeAndre Hunter to Cleveland for Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, and 3 second-round picks and 2 swaps. Again, I'd say Cleveland probably got the better of that deal, if we're being honest with one another. But we'll see what happens. We got to see what that looks like before we can say what the outcome of any of these trades are. All right, I'm gonna try to keep my phone. Matter of fact, I'm gonna turn my notifications on, so if something else happens, I will know while we're live. But let's get to the comment section and see what you guys are talking about. John Perez, my guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP. Likewise. Says, my Lakers finally got a center. I wanted Myles Turner, but I like Mark Williams a lot. Is this the greatest NBA trade deadline ever? It has to be. It has to be. I don't know what it will turn out to be from a result standpoint, but in terms of high-level activity and big name players changing teams, this is without a doubt just off the strength of the Luka AD trade. You can't match this NBA trade deadline. That set the tone. Then you get De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine switching teams and or trading teams. They didn't switch teams, but and then you get all these other trades, Chris Middleton and Jimmy Butler is a massive. Again, if not for the Luka trade, the Jimmy Butler thing it's literally a blockbuster. But because that Luka AD trade has redefined what a blockbuster did, it's almost desensitizing us to big trades in the NBA now. Because that deal was so monumental. It was on such a large scale where you're like, oh my God, the shock value for that on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 30. A Jimmy Butler trade that involves Andrew Wiggins doesn't even move. A 5-team trade doesn't even move the needle. You're like, oh, Jimmy Butler got traded. Cool. That's wild because that would have been the headline. Brandon Ingram's getting traded. B.I. got traded for a hot ham and cheese sandwich, a bag of chips, and no juice box. Drink some water. There's the water fountain over there. I mean, it's wild. This is without a doubt the greatest NBA trade deadline ever. And Myles Turner would have been awesome because he's a big that can stretch the floor. Like he can shoot threes. Mark Williams cannot. And we know Myles Turner is a rim protector. Mark Williams can protect the rim as well. Luka made it abundantly clear he wanted an athletic big. So they went out and they got him one. And all he's got to do is stay healthy. That's what Mark Williams has to do, is stay healthy. If he can do that, he'll be a problem. It's a really good pickup for the Lakers. And again, I don't think you gave up all that much, to be honest with you. I don't think you gave up all that much. I didn't think you needed to give up on Dalton Connect, that early. But you had to give them something because the rest of that deal wasn't shit. You had to give them something that they could take now and feel good about. And then you gave them some things that they could feel good about into the future, including an unprotected 2031 first-round pick. But they needed something now. And the now was Dalton Connect. Kyle, I'll say this. That changes the way I view the Lakers. Not that I think they're going to do anything in the West this year, but they got a shot now, at least, right? They got a shot now. Mark Williams is no AD. I think we're all clear on that. But it gives them a body down there, a legitimate one. But he's got to stay healthy, like I said. Kyle, excuse me. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kyle writes, Myles Garrett hewed a helmet to the head of a QB, able to look past? Of course. No, we don't even talk about that anymore. Until you just brought it up, I had forgotten all about that. He took a helmet to the head of Mason Rudolph, I believe it was, in Pittsburgh. I'd forgotten all about that. I don't think anybody remember. I'm so glad that nobody got hurt, because had something happened to Mason Rudolph, then he would not have been able to overcome that. But because nobody got hurt in that situation, severely injured, it was one of those situations like, okay, we're going to suspend you. I think they suspended him for the rest of the year that year, and let this blow over. You're going to be remorseful, and then we're just going to move on. And that's what happened. Time heals all wounds. And again, I had forgotten that it had even happened till you just reminded me. Nobody's worried about that. He's not like, so just so we're clear, he's not a head case. Like, he's a different cat, but he's not a head case. Aaron Donald was a head case, but you were willing to take Aaron Donald and his on the field antics, and at any moment he was a ticking time bomb. At any moment somebody could do something to him on a play that he took exception to, and he'd get thrown out the game because he didn't give a shit. He was going to try to put you in a chokehold, strangle you, take your face mask off. He was going to try to beat your ass. And he didn't care about getting thrown out of a goddamn game. It's levels to this shit, you know. Richie Incognito, he's crazy. I talk about that. It's crazy, and then there's crazy. Richie Incognito was crazy. Kyle Turley was crazy. Steve Smith Sr., crazy. Aaron Donald, crazy. Myles Garrett is not crazy. You worry about the crazy ones. You don't worry about guys that are just a little crazy. Because everybody needs to be just a little crazy to play football. You need to be a little crazy. Game Bomber 1 TV 2. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, 2025 NFL Hall of Fame class gets selected tonight. Your predictions on who gets in. I was going to save that for tomorrow when I was going to react to it instead of trying to predict it. But since you asked, let's go over it. Let me pull up a list of the NFL Hall of Fame class. So these are the finalists: Antonio Gates, Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Jahari Evans, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, Eli Manning, Steve Smith Sr., Terrell Suggs, Fred Taylor, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, Darren Woodson, and Marshall Yanda are your Hall of Fame finalists. Should be 15 names if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I got 16. Maybe I miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, 15. 15 names. So of these 15, my guess is 5 of them are going to be selected. Then you're probably going to have like 2 people that are either on the like the old list. I forgot what they call it. And then you may have like a contributor that gets in. So, because usually I think the Hall of Fame class is like 7 guys. And they usually like to pull 1 from the the old list, the guys that aged out of the regular Hall of Fame list, and then they like to have a contributor if they can. So let's pick out 5 names here. I was actually offended that Antonio Gates was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay, offended. Okay, as a guy who fancies himself as a Hall of Fame gatekeeper, I was offended that he didn't get in, and I saw some of the guys that. Uh oh. Uh oh. My buddy, we've been talking about the environment in Phoenix, and now articles coming out that the environment in Phoenix is toxic, which is why Jimmy Butler didn't go there. And it says Jimmy Butler, KD trade rumors have created a very awkward, very weird vibe around the team. And so me and him were talking about that earlier. It's just not a great place to be right now, but I digress. So Antonio Gates should have been in last year. That was a farce. That was a shame. That was a travesty. So he's in for me without question. Eli Manning, you know he's getting in. His last name is Manning, so he's in. That's 2. I feel like a guy like Willie Anderson probably gets in. He's been up here for a while now, and that doesn't mean anything. There have been other guys who've been up there for a while and didn't get in, but I feel like he's finally going to get in. Generally, he feels right this year, and he deserved to be in. By the way, long time Cincinnati Bengal tackle. So that's 3. Eric Allen. So I don't think Eric Allen and Willie Anderson are both getting in. Both of them are older veteran players who, retired in the 90s. So for me, Eric Allen may have made it to the early 2000s, but one of the 2 are getting in, not both. So I'm an Eric Allen fan, but I think Willie Anderson probably gets the nod over him. So I'm going to go Gates, Willie Anderson, Eli Manning. That's 3. I think it's too soon for Luke Kuechly, but he'll get in just like what's the 49ers linebacker? Man, I can see his face. Who had an abbreviated career. Damn, why I can't think of his name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Patrick Willis. Thank you, Game Bomber 1 TV2. Patrick Willis got in. Luke Kuechly will get in. I just don't think it's now, but he will get in. So I'll pass him up. T Sizzle will get in. I just don't think it's now. Fred Taylor, I don't think it's now. Vinatieri, no. Reggie Wayne, no. Too soon for him. Darren Woodson is another one. I'd put Darren Woodson in there with Eric Allen and Willie Anderson. Okay. So, and I don't think you're getting 2 offensive linemen. So Marshall Yanda deserves to be in. I don't know if he gets in this soon. Tell you what, Gates, Antonio Gates, Willie Anderson, Marshall Yanda, Eli Manning, and you got to have a receiver. So Torrey's been waiting the longest, I would guess, because Steve Smith just became eligible and Reggie Wayne not too long ago. So I'm going to say Torrey Holt rounds out the group. So Gates, Willie Anderson, Torrey Holt, Eli Manning, Marshall Yanda are the 5 guys that I'm going to go with. Those are the 5 I'm going to go with. I can tell you this for sure. Gates and Eli Manning are in without question. The other 3 are up for grabs, but I'm going to go Willie Anderson, Torrey Holt, and I feel like you need a defensive player somewhere in here. I don't have a single one. Like I went Gates, Anderson, Holt, Manning, and Yanda. That's all offensive players. I feel like there's got to be a defensive player in here somewhere. And there are only what? 2 on this list? 3? 4? 5. Allen, both Allens, Eric Allen and Jared Allen. Luke Kuechly is 3, Terrell Suggs is 4, and Darren Woodson is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sticking to it. But I wouldn't be shocked if a defensive guy got in. I feel like you'll get 4 offensive players and 1 defensive player. But Gates, I'm sticking to my guns. Gates, Anderson, Holt, Manning, Yonda. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's Gates and if they add in a defensive player, then you take Willie Anderson out, and it'd be Gates, Holt, Manning, probably I'd say Kuechly, and then Yonda is probably how it would go. Or Allen, if you want to swap out one oldie but goodie for another, Eric Allen. Hove, been a member for 15 months. Who writes, have you seen Eagles have an illness spreading? No, I haven't heard about that. I hope that's not the case. But you know how those things go. But no, I haven't heard anything about that. I hope that's not the case because we're getting too close to the game for that to be taking place. But haven't heard anything about it. Hope that's not the case because I want them at full strength for this game. As a fan, I want a good game. I either want a good game or I want them getting blown out. But what I don't want is an excuse. So I hope they're fine. But we'll see what happens. All right. Let's get to the comment section. We're going to take a couple of these and then we're going to roll out. HTTR Carson writes, Chris Middleton was iconic for us, but it was time to move on. Defensively, the drop-off was too much. I think Kuz needed a change of scenery too. And he did, right? I thought he stayed in Washington 1 year too long. But, and to your point, Chris Middleton can't move his feet anymore defensively, but he could still fill it up, you know? But again, what you were doing currently wasn't going to work. You knew that, and you knew you needed to try something else. And that's what this is. You don't know if this Kuzma, trade is going to net you any benefits, but it beats the alternative of just rolling with Chris Middleton, burying your head in the sand and saying, well, let's just hope it gets better as the season wears on. No, it's not. He's not getting any younger, right? And you're not going to have some random Joe Schmo off your bench all of a sudden start producing at a high level. You're already getting a lot out of AJ Green, right? So I don't hate the move. Let's see what it nets you. Jefferson Montenegro, right? So what do you think the Cavs need to win the finals? I'm very happy with our team, but we can do better than Dean Wade. You just saw what you did. And this was before you knew that you were like, y'all knew that this wasn't good enough. Now you got a legit shot with DeAndre Hunter. I love that move for you guys. I love it. Love this. I love that move for you guys. Ghost Rider. Would you rather have Washington get a wide receiver in free agency or the draft? free agency. But that hinges upon who's available. And we'll talk more about that later on tonight on the command post live. We'll talk more about that. Me and my buddy had a conversation. I'm gonna share that conversation with y'all and see what you think. All right. I think that is it from that standpoint. HTTR Carson says, are you vegan because of moral reasons or just for health reasons? For health reasons, not because I had to go vegan. I'm vegan because of a choice. Because I know, like, here's the thing, and I tell people this all the time. Do what you want to do. It's your life. It's your body. You do whatever you want to do. And I always advocate, do what makes you happy. Like, to me, life is all about happiness. Like, what is life if you're miserable? I don't care how much money you got. If you're miserable, life sucks. You could be the brokest person, but if you're happy, that's all that matters, because money doesn't matter to everyone. Happiness is what matters, right? So do whatever makes your heart content. And if eating makes you happy, do that to the degree that you're still healthy, right? Like, you can't be 500 pounds and still eating to your heart's content. You're eating yourself into a grave, right? But I'm not telling you to stop eating bacon. If you like eating bacon, eat bacon. If you like eating chicken wings, eat wings, bro. I'm not telling you to stop. But understand that our bodies are a direct reflection of what we put in it. Understand that. And so when people get sick a lot of times, they get sick based off of the things they put in their bodies. And when you stop doing the thing that made you sick, miraculously you get healthy, right? It's not a secret. It's no wonder that I'm having issues with glucose. I changed my diet, and a week later, I have no symptoms and I'm fine. I was pre-diabetic. So a lot of times, changing your diet, we all have cancerous cells running through our bodies. All of us do. It's what you put in your body that activates those cancerous cells. So again, I went vegan because in my mind, there's a joint venture between an agreement between the government, the food companies, and pharmaceuticals. And they don't try to help you get better with the food you're eating. Like, you go on the American Heart Association website and they're telling you eat these foods to help with your heart. Bullshit. Okay. These foods have proven, tests have proven that these foods aren't good for your heart. But yet you're telling people on your website to eat these things, right? So then when you start having heart disease, guess what you got to do? You got to take medication. So now you got to go to the pharmaceutical company. They're not giving you medicine to make your heart better. They're giving you medicine to treat the symptoms, right? So if you just want to get to the root cause, it's your diet. They could tell you that, but they don't tell you that, because that doesn't put money in everybody's pocket. I know that. So I just chose to change my diet. Instead of going through all of that, I just chose to change my diet because I know how the game goes. I know what it's about. I could talk to y'all about this for hours, but a lot of this stuff you probably already know. You probably already know. Sean Blake writes, man, LB and his cronies pissed me off watching last night. I understand your frustration. I was yelling at my phone trying to back you up, praying to the football gods they lose. Last night was a fun show. for a number of different reasons. I went in there with a goal in mind, and I accomplished my goal. Did I accomplish it the way that I probably should have? No. But I got the intended result. So it's all good. Seeds have been planted. Now let's hope that, as you said, the football gods do their part and we can have some fun, you know? But I love it. It ain't much you can say when you lose 55-23. You got to take your lumps. And I had to take my lumps last night. But I think we got some good things coming. No more trades thus far. I thought I saw Vucevic to the Warriors. I was like, wait a minute, come on now. They didn't just go get Vooch. Even though I wouldn't be tripping if they did. But that would be a good piece for them. I appreciate you, Sean. It's all love. Sean Blake also says, LB saying we won't be back ever. I mean, that's asinine. I'm not like those type of comments. He's doing that for effect. I'm not even responding to that. Him saying Jaden Daniels is third in the division. I'm not even responding to that because he knows better. He's just trying to get under our skin. He does that. And now, again, you can't say anything to him right now. That's what I said. That's an off-season conversation. Hopefully they lose the Super Bowl. Then if they win the Super Bowl, we won't be able to tell him nothing. We won't be able to say nothing to him. And I'm not even going to try if they win the Super Bowl because it's falling on deaf ears, right? That Super Bowl ring will be so loud that you won't even be able to hear yourself talk or think. They lose the Super Bowl, we can have rational, reasonable conversations this offseason. So the hope is they lose on Sunday, because if they don't, he is going to be, and just as I would be, like I said, I can't be upset because if the shoe was on the other foot and we were on the precipice of winning the Super Bowl, I would be so unbearable. So unbearable. So I get it. I get it. All right. AFC Condo says, reportedly Denzel Ward wants out of Cleveland too. That's interesting. Now that one I find a little hard to believe because he's a Ohio boy. He was right up the street. I think he was born right up the street. Like he was born in Ohio. He went to Ohio State. He got drafted by the Browns. He's got foundations there. He's got roots there. Everything, his entire life is there. It's hard for me to imagine him wanting out. But losing, it will do something to you. Losing will do something to you. So we'll see. We will see. All right. So the Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Commandalorian writes, up the Smeagol's, Lou. It's up and it's stuck. Pause. You know what it is. That's exactly what it is when it comes to them. It's up and it's stuck. And I'm here for all the smoke, man. Which is what I said last night. Like, you just got to deal with Eagles fans in a different way. And that's all I was trying to communicate last night. But I got my point across. I got my point across. So now our boys, their job is to back us up, to give us ammunition. You know, you can't talk shit if your team isn't good. So now Adam Peters has to do his job, and I expect him to. I got no worries. He's going to put us in the best position to succeed this offseason. And we already know what Jaden Daniels is. We'll be back. You know, listen to him talk about crazy stuff like, y'all are never getting back here, and that kind of, okay, guy. Okay, guy. Sure, you're right, guy. Anyway, I digress. So let's get to the final segment of the show. You already know what it is, and that's garbage time. So, Joe Burrow is in the way. I was talking to my buddy. He lives in Ohio, so he's well versed on the Cincinnati Bengals. He's almost adopted them as a second team almost because of how much information he has on them, because that's the home state team. So most of the people he communicates with and the circles he run in, they're all Cincinnati Bengals fans, so he can't get away from it. So with that said, we were talking about T. Higgins, and I'm going to share some of that conversation with you a little bit later on. But Joe Burrow, and this is not new news. Burrow has made this abundantly clear that he wants to keep the nucleus of that team together, and he wants to keep his receivers together. And he said he's willing to restructure his contract, take less money if need be, to keep T. Higgins in Cincinnati. And I'm like, Joe, buddy. And so, here I am thinking that Jamar Chase is going to be a free agent. He's not a free agent. He's going into the last year of his deal. They don't want to do what they did last year again this year, because then he won't have you by the balls. He's not a quarterback. He's not Dak Prescott per se. But then if you give him an opportunity to get to free agency, this is Jamar Chase I'm speaking of, what's going to stop him from saying, you know what, don't want to sign a long-term deal here? No player wants to be on a franchise tag. It's a lot of money for 1 year of service, but there's no long-term guarantee in a franchise tag. So if you go out and you tear your ACL, well, now that contract we were thinking about giving you, let's put a little pause on that. Now I need to see you do this on a 1 year prove it deal to figure out if I need to give you this long-term deal. No player wants to have to go through that, right? See Christian McCaffrey this year. See Brandon Ayuk this year, right? He finally gets this deal that he was balking about all offseason, and then boom, tears his knee up. McCaffrey gets his money in the offseason, and then boom, he's got Achilles tendonitis. Both of them. So you want to get your money. That said, Joe Burrow being willing to renegotiate his contract, do whatever it takes to keep him on, that could complicate things. That could complicate things. I'm like, hey, Joe, hey, woohoo. Move, bitch. Get out the way. Get out the way, Joe. Get out the way. Hey, Joe, it's over, bro. Let him go. Let him go. We need him over here. And we're gonna have the conversation later on tonight on the Commanders Nightly News, or not Commanders Nightly News, on the Command Post Live, because my buddy brought some interesting points up, and that could complicate things. And it kind of turned my whole perspective on that situation. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So I'm gonna share that conversation with y'all. But Joe Burrow reiterating, because he said this before, that he would be willing to, restructure his contract, do whatever it takes to keep T. Higgins on board. And if you watched the in-season Hard Knocks with the AFC North, then you know that they have a great relationship. Those two receivers and Joe Burrow, and Joe really relies heavily on T. Higgins. So I'm just saying Joe Burrow being willing to renegotiate his contract, maybe even take less money, could complicate things. If you're a prospective team, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Commanders, all teams looking for wide receiver help this free agency period. T. Higgins is the way, without question, the runaway favorite, biggest fish available in free agency. If he's available. We'll talk about that later on tonight. So, with that said, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to chopping it up with y'all later on this evening for the Command Post Live. We got a lot to discuss. We take a long, hard look at free agency and talk about all of the positions and all of the guys that will be available. We'll have a real discussion about T. Higgins, Myles Garrett, and other guys that may be available. So look forward to having you on later on tonight. I'm excited. I'm about to get me a new phone, dog. I've had the same phone. So I'm an old hag when it comes to phones. I do not get rid of phones often. I am a guy that takes care of his phone, but the phone companies want you to get a new phone. So after a while, they start sending these updates, and then your phone starts malfunctioning, and now you're like, I need a new phone. Well, I don't have any more space on my phone. I've gotten to the point, I've had this phone for over 3 years, maybe 4 years now, which time flies, my goodness. But I've got pictures in that phone from 2019, I believe. So I've had that phone for a very long time. Uh-oh, do we have something on the way out? No, they're just saying that the Clippers are trading Terrence Mann and Bones Highland to the Hawks for Bogdan Bogdanovic and 3 second-rounders. I remember at one point Terrence Mann was untradeable, like he was an untouchable rather for the Clippers. Untouchable. Now they're putting him in a deal with Bones Highland and shipping him off to the Hawks. That's a good deal for the Hawks after losing a guy like shucks. The dude from UVA. Why am I blanking on his name? After losing him, to get a guy like Terrence Mann back, it's a good move. I like it for them. And then the Clippers are getting a knockdown shooter back in return. So that trade screams, hey, we need more shooting. Right? That's what that trade screams. You're gonna lose some defense, but you're gonna gain a ton of shooting. And they got 3 second-round picks as well. So wow. Terrence Mann is now a Hawk. DeAndre Hunter, that's his name. DeAndre Hunter. Okay, so another trade has gone down. We are 30 minutes away from the trade deadline being done. So we'll see if anything else happens. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I couldn't be friends with probably 75% of y'all. If you are an iPhone user, we can't be friends. You're like, if you're an iPhone user, you're no better than a Philadelphia Eagle fan. You're the scum of the earth. Nah, I'm kidding. But seriously, I can't stand iPhone users. Can't stand iPhones. Y'all think y'all better than us, man. Y'all let them put the battery in your back. I'm so disappointed in y'all. Y'all let them put the battery in your back. They try to separate us. Apple tries to separate us. They don't want us to populate as one. And y'all fall for the trap. So disappointed in y'all Apple users, man. I met my wife and I told her this is a non-Apple. She had she didn't have an iPhone, but she had a an iPad, and she had she had some Apple products. I was like, no, those can't come with you. Once you cross the threshold of my house, my home, this is an Apple-free zone. You have to leave. If I catch an Apple product, my daughter came here. She has an iPhone. I said, you have to leave. I made her walk home. You can't get in my car. You can't get in my house, not with an Apple product. There's the door. Just so you know where I stand. You'll always know where I stand. You'll never have to guess. You don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. No Apple products allowed. So the new S25 is out. One of those has my name on it. Boy, I need a new phone in the worst way. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 481st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Commandalorian writes, do we dive into free agency or the trade market like Houston did for CJ? If Higgins tied up, I'm all in on DK if available and landing Garrett for two reasons. Keep him away from the Eagles and we need him. Yeah, these are all conversations we're going to have tonight, Commandalorian, without question. These are all conversations. I'm glad you brought it up. You kind of going in that direction that we're going to head to tonight. You it's almost like you in my brain a little bit or something. But we here. We here. So you tapping my phone? You got a signal or something over here? You know something. Either way. Yeah, we'll be having that discussion tonight, Commandalorian. Jared Fromm, stand up. You, my friend, are the newest member of the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Show Jared some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad, Jared Fromm. Glad to have you on board. E, you a funny guy. I heard your jokes, E. Okay, the next Discord group, the Apple Squad. Good one, E. Good one. All right. I'm a proud green bubble over here. See, the fact that you refer to me as a green bubble, that's what I'm talking about. Apple trying to separate us, man. We all one. Right? We are all one. Frankie Beverly taught me that. But Apple doesn't seem to think that way. They want to separate us. They don't want you using Google Duo like the rest of us. No, you got to use FaceTime. Yeah. You damn Apple users. You iPhone users. Can't live with them. Won't live with them. Can't live with them. Can't do it. Won't do it. Anyway, I digress. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully I will see you guys later on tonight for the Command Post Live. And I will see you tomorrow, hopefully, as well, for the Louie T Network podcast, where we will be talking Super Bowl 59. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. Good day.